What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I want to do a one recap. We're officially the first week in January. Trading is going well, which is great. But I also want to talk about just some of the recap from 2024 and what I'm going to be focusing on going into this new year. Some of the things that I took time to really reflect on when I looked at my profitable trades to my not so profitable trades, boiled down to a few different things, right? It boiled down to risk, it boiled down to discipline, it boiled down to patience. And so a lot of the things I'm going to be focusing on this year in particular are going to be the same exact thing, right? So first and foremost, risk, right? I had a great conversation with one of my close friends, and it was the same exact thing, right? We were talking about just reflecting on 2024 and last year. And I just said, like, did you lose more money or make more money than you did the year before? He's like, yes. I'm like, that's a win, right? Even if you're a trader and you are someone that, for example, you've been struggling, you've been grinding. Last year wasn't profitable. The year before wasn't profitable. And let's just say you broke even this year, right? That is a win. Right. And so we need to start looking at those things and celebrating those things as these small victories that we're having in our trading journey. Right. And so for me, once I can kind of put my mind in that mindset of I do better the year before, that's all that matters. Right. That sets my mind up to be positive going into this new year, which takes us to my next thing. Right. We're talking about risk, right? More so than everything else. If you look at it and if you reverse engineer things, right, you look at everything as a whole of like, if I just risk less, I'll make more in the long run. And what I mean by that is, right, there's a saying of just preserving capital, right? If you have $2,000 and you risk less, but you're making $100 or $200 a day, versus if you risk $500 and you lose $500, right, you blow your account. And so everything about my mentality this year in particular, and even this week of trading, the first week of this year, has been about just risk, right? Risking less, trading less is going to make us all more profitable. And if we can focus on that for the whole entire year while being more consistent, we're going to be more profitable regardless. And so my goal this year is just to be better at my risk, right? If I want to risk on big trades, it needs to be high quality setups. If I want to risk, if I'm busy and I know I have crazy day ahead of me, whatever the case is with the family, I'm just going to risk less. And so we need to make sure that we're risking less. The next thing is patience, right? When I really reverse engineered and start to kind of back test everything and also go through my journals, my patience, right? Sometimes there's something that comes up where I may have gotten busy, right? Sometimes there are things that may have come up where for whatever reason, I'm in a rush, right? And so I didn't wait for certain levels to get hit, and I took trades, right, a lot earlier before they got to certain zones. And so my goal going into this year also is going to be more disciplined, right? More patient, more so than everything else. This week in particular, I was more patient, right? I was more patient with holding trades, right? Because my risk was better, and I was more patient at waiting for things to get into certain areas or cross certain zones. And so patience is going to be huge for me. Another thing too, discipline, right? I talk about this all the time, but I also have been talking to myself when I do my journaling. I'm just like, I usually write when I journal, I talk to myself. I'm not sure if I'm the only one, but that's what I do, right? So when I journal, a lot of it is really more of like, just be more disciplined, right? If you can be more disciplined and wait for certain setups to happen, you'll do better. If you can be more disciplined and wait for your TP to get hit, right? Or your stop loss to get hit before exiting a trade, whatever the case is, right? You'll start to actually have data that actually works, right? And it still all boils down to the same exact thing, which is risk. If I can risk $100 hypothetically and it gives me 20 to 40 points, right? You can still manually stop it, right? You can still manually stop it before it hits it if it breaks through a certain zone. But if I feel confident in that zone, I just risk $100 and I can go about my day. Well, when I'm risking $1,000, $2,000 for the same exact move, that's where things are a little bit harder, right? And we're not as profitable. Okay, so with this being the first week, things that I'm going to be focusing on, especially with this week, is just going to be just being more patient, waiting for my trades to develop. Once I'm in trades too as well, seeing if I can hold longer because I'm risking less. That's going to be huge for me, right? If I can risk less and make more by holding, right? I'm not as stressed because I'm only risking $50, $100, $150, $200, right? Versus when I was first trading, I'm risking thousands of dollars in a trade, right? And this is some of the things that I have learned over time. It's not about what we it's not about how much money we're spending on the front end. It's really about how much money we can save. And I think this whole trading, and I do believe this whole trading industry is about preserving capital, right? We think it's about making money, but it's really about preserving capital. If I start my account at $2,000, my whole goal is to keep the $2,000, right? I don't want to lose the $2,000. And so if I make $1,000, $3,000, $4,000, whatever the case is, right? I never want to lose my original $2,000, if that makes sense. And so that takes me to my next thing. My focal point for any prop firm that I'm doing this year, my focal point for any account that I'm creating, whether it's options or anything, right? Futures, is preserve your original amount. Or before you start taking money out, get to a certain cushion, right? And so for me, what I mean by that is, if, for example, with Topstep, right? If they're starting us off on a $2,000 account, if you're doing a $50K account, or a $4,500 account if you're doing a $150K account, once you get funded, your goal should be get that excess, right? So get $2,000 excess, and everything afterwards is money you get to pull out, right? So that way you never go below that $2,000. And so these are part of the strategy and the approach that I'm going to be focusing on this year, is really just building the cushion, and then you start taking profits out, right? And if you can actually be more disciplined, if you can risk less, then you can hold longer, right? You're not as stressed out, especially when it starts to actually go your direction. So those are my focal points, right? Another thing that I'm going to be focused on this year too is trying to spend more time with the bigger time frame levels, right? I think that is something that last week, right, this past week that just happened right now, I saw a lot of that, right? I just probably about 6 months ago started charting and mapping out the monthly levels, which is huge. If you can map out the monthly levels in a stock, or if you can map out the monthly levels, right, those are key areas that when we break through it, or we can either dump from it, we can either bounce from it, but those are great areas to kind of like see what's going to happen with the market. Right. If you look at this past week, we broke the monthly levels multiple times. And when we did it, we either dumped, or if we broke up, we either rallied up. And so something I'm going to be focusing more on is making sure that whether I'm trading NAS or NQ or ES or anything, really get better at marking my different levels. Right. One of the things that we were discussing this week in particular are, if you look at levels when it comes to like futures and options too, as resistance, right? So think about it this way. If you day trade and you're marking your monthly levels more so than anything else, right? Your monthly levels are stronger than your weekly levels. Your weekly levels are stronger than your daily levels. Your daily levels are stronger than your 4 hour, your hour, and so on. And so when you start to kind of have that in your mind of like, okay, cool, this is a monthly level right here, right? Whatever happens within this monthly level can dictate everything else. And yes, it's not going to be 100%, right? But there's a high probability, I would say 60 to 80%, that once you break through or break below a monthly level, right, we're going to rally up or we're going to dump down for a bigger move. And if you backtest that, you're going to see it happens pretty often, right? And so what I'm going to really do is really take my time and really just knowing where my monthly levels are, my weekly levels are, and just kind of seeing how the market responds to that. And once I do that, then now I'm just looking at the next monthly target, right? If I'm going to be going for the bigger move and bigger momentum. So that is something that I think is going to make me more profitable this year. That is something that last year I didn't do a really good job at it. I was focusing on weekly. Really for most of last year, I was focusing on daily levels. And so my goal now is to get back to focusing on monthly levels, get back to focusing on weekly levels, get back to focusing on daily levels, right? And then everything else in between is a bonus, right? But the bigger the level, the bigger the time frame, the more we respond to it. And when you have that, you can see it like when you're down on an hour, 15 minute, 5 minute. When we break through it, I'm telling you, we have movement. And so my goal, once again, this year is going to be looking at that, risking less, so that way, once again, my stop losses aren't as tight. And then once we break out, right, then wait for a retest to add. I think if you can do that, you'll do really well. We'll all do really well. And so that's going to be my focal point for this year, is just trying to figure out more ways to risk less, being more disciplined, and waiting for certain levels to get hit, like monthly levels, weekly levels, even daily levels. Yes. But once again, the monthly and weekly, I really just need to put more focus and time on those levels, right? For whatever reason, and sometimes those levels can get broken through in pre-market, right? 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And so it's a matter of just catching those things and seeing that, and then finding what the ultimate trend is once we start to break out that way. And then lastly, with YouTube in particular, I want to start posting more. So the beauty of trading is that I can document my trades, my wins, my losses, and I want to do this more often. And so I'm going to try to do more videos like this where I can just talk and rant and talk about what happened in the week, talk about how I'm feeling more so than everything else. I shared in one of my last videos, Thanksgiving was a tough time, and a few people commented saying that with Thanksgiving, just because they're around friends and family too, they have the same exact feeling of just being busy, right? And feeling like they were stressed out and more anxious. And I think it's the same thing for everybody. So right now with the new year happening, I'm excited to just see like how, now that the holidays are out of the way, now that people are going to be coming off the holidays, we should have better trends of being able to see things a little bit better. That's what my hopes are, right? Because even with the first week, it was slow. There's a lot of consolidation. When we did have breakouts, it's been very up and down and choppy. And so ultimately, I'm hoping that once this next week, 2 weeks happen, we can see the market kind of stabilize a little bit more, meaning we have more volume. We're actually getting these big runs, right, up or down. That's my hopes, right? And I'm going to try to see if I can post more on YouTube. I want to try to see if I can challenge myself either every other day. Daily would be great, but every other day if possible, and just do more. I'm excited for this journey more so than everything else, and I'm excited to document it, post it, right? Get out of my comfort zone, because this is something new, right? And like I said in the beginning of the video, if you're a new trader, which I'm new, right? I feel like if you haven't been trading for 5 years, 10 years, we're all new traders more so than everything else. But if you are a new trader and you are frustrated, or if you're annoyed, understand that it is part of the journey, and also understand that it's okay, right? As long as you are consistently showing up, as long as you are consistently getting better, right? You're doing well. And I had to remind myself that, and I hear a lot of traders that have been trading for a longer time, and they say that even like breaking even is a win. Breaking even and not losing money. Let's just say year 1 you lost $10,000. Year 2 you lost 5. Year 3 you lost 2,500. You're still making progress, and at some point, all this effort, all this time, all this attention to charts and YouTube videos and everything like that, and mentorships, it's gonna pay off. It's going to pay off for all of us. And so keep at it, keep grinding. That's my message for you guys. And I'll see you guys in the next video. All right. Talk to you guys later.